The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with the usual bureaucratic drone of 200 different species arguing about trade routes, border disputes, and who stole whose quantum refrigerator technology. You know, the important stuff that keeps our magnificent interstellar civilization running smoothly. But today was different. Today, Ambassador Zix 427 of the Centaurian Collective had the floor, and boy, did they have some complaints about the newest troublemakers in the galaxy, humans. Now, Zix 427 was what you'd call a traditional diplomat, if your tradition involved looking like a floating jellyfish with too many eyes and a penchant for dramatic pauses. They hovered at the central podium, their translucent tentacles swishing with righteous indignation. Distinguished members of the Council, Zix 427 began, their voice modulator hitting that perfect note of condescension that only centuries of diplomatic training could achieve. I come before you today to address the most pressing threat to galactic peace since the Great Space Cabbage Uprising of 3457. Several council members shuddered at the mention of the Cabbage Uprising. Nobody likes to remember how close we came to being overthrown by sentient vegetables. These humans, Zix 427 continued, managing to make the word sound like a particularly nasty space disease, have violated no less than 47 galactic conventions in their first standard year of interstellar contact. A holographic display materialized, showing a list that scrolled on for what seemed like eternity. The charges ranged from the serious, unauthorized modification of Class 7 propulsion systems to the absolutely ridiculous, introducing the concept of dad jokes to the Rigelian hive mind. They've turned our perfectly organized galaxy into chaos. They put hot sauce on a Vulxian ceremonial peace offering. They taught the Andromedans about something called poker, and now half their system's resources are owned by a human named Big Tony. The council chambers erupted in gasps. A Vulxian representative fainted, their crystalline form tinkling as they hit the floor. But worst of all, Zix 427's voice dropped to a horrified whisper, they've started exporting something called reality television to developing civilizations. Do you have any idea what the Real Housewives of Alpha Centauri has done to our cultural integrity? The council leader, High Chancellor Crix, a being composed entirely of shifting geometric shapes, raised what might have been a hand. What do you propose we do with these humans? Zix 427's bioluminescent spots glowed with satisfaction. I propose we exile them, all of them. To Terminus 9, the chamber went dead silent. Even the quantum AI running the environmental systems seemed to hold its breath. Terminus 9? Chancellor Crix's shape spun in distress. But that's a Deathworld. No spacefaring civilization has ever survived there. Exactly, Zix 427 purred. Let's see them spread their chaos from a planet with acid rain, predators the size of starships, and gravity that would crush most species. It's completely uninhabitable. They'll be forced to behave and focus on mere survival. The council voted, the motion passed, and that, my friends, was arguably the biggest mistake in galactic history. But we'll get to that part. The relocation of humanity to Terminus 9 was, to put it mildly, about as organized as a penguin running a hot sauce factory. The Galactic Council dispatched their finest fleet of transport ships, expecting tears, resistance, and maybe a few strongly worded letters to the editor of the Galactic Times. What they got instead was humans treating it like some kind of twisted vacation package. You mean we get a whole planet to ourselves? Was a disturbingly common response. And it's got super predators and crazy weather. Awesome! Hey, can we bring our dogs? The council's relocation officers watched in bewilderment as humans packed their bags with items like surfboards. But sir, the oceans are made of acid. Rock climbing gear, the gravity will crush you. And something called hot sauce. Haven't you caused enough trouble with that already? Terminus 9 was the galaxy's equivalent of that one house on the street that everyone avoids because it looks like it might eat you. The planet rotated on its axis like a drunk gymnast, creating weather patterns that would give a supercomputer an anxiety attack. Its gravity was 1.8 times galactic standard, meaning anyone who visited needed an exoskeleton just to pick their nose. The surface was a charming mix of active volcanoes, carnivorous forests, and plains roamed by creatures that made Earth's dinosaurs look like stuffed animals at a kid's tea party. The oceans? Imagine soup made by a chef who really hates customers and has access to industrial chemicals. The first human settlement pods dropped through the thick purplish atmosphere amid what the Council assumed would be their final moments. The pods crashed through 3 layers of storm clouds, dodged a flock of flying creatures that looked like a cross between pterodactyls and angry construction equipment, and somehow landed in one piece. The Council's observation drones recorded the first human steps onto Terminus 9's surface. They expected screams of terror. Instead, they got, "Check out the size of that bug. Anyone got a camera?" "Hey, these mountains look perfect for base jumping. The acid rain actually makes my hair look amazing. Who's up for barbecue? Those giant predators got to taste like something." Within the first week, humans had already broken several of their survival pods, trying to convert them into something called dune buggies. They set up farming operations in soil that could dissolve standard metal tools, using modified earth crops that seemed weirdly happy about growing in literally toxic conditions. When a pack of Terminus Rex, imagine a T-Rex but angry, armored, and with the problem-solving skills of a dolphin, attacked one of the settlements, the Council observers prepared to log their first human casualties. Instead, they watched in horror as a group of humans led the creatures away using giant chunks of meat tied to their converted dune buggies, in what they called the galaxy's most extreme game of fetch. By the end of the first month, humans had established 6 major settlements, started a betting pool on local weather patterns, and somehow managed to domesticate one of the smaller flying predators, which they were using to deliver mail between communities. The Council's observation team filed their first report with shaking appendages. The humans appear to be having fun. Request immediate psychiatric evaluation of observation team. We fear the planet's conditions have affected our sanity. They hadn't gone insane. They were just witnessing the beginning of something that would make the entire galaxy question its understanding of the word impossible. 50 years after the Great Exile, or as humans called it, the best forced vacation ever, the Galactic Council finally remembered to check on their troublesome castaways. They expected to find either a dead civilization or, at best, a handful of survivors living in caves and fighting over scraps. What they found made them wish they'd kept a closer eye on things. The first survey drone they sent crashed immediately, not because of the harsh conditions, but because it flew into an invisible force field that covered most of the continent. The second drone made it through, after receiving landing clearance from what appeared to be a highly sophisticated traffic control system, and transmitted images that caused the Council's observation team to need collective therapy. The humans had changed. Turns out living on a Deathworld for half a century does things to a species. The constant high gravity had transformed them into shorter, more muscular beings who moved like they were made of dense rubber. Their bones had become nearly unbreakable, laced with naturally occurring carbon nanostructures that their bodies had somehow learned to produce. But that wasn't even the weird part. "Are they glowing?" one Council observer asked, adjusting their visual sensors. Indeed, human skin had developed a slight bioluminescent quality, an adaptation to the planet's frequent dust storms and long periods of darkness. Their eyes reflected light like cats, and their hair had evolved to repel the acid rain, often changing color based on atmospheric conditions, a rather fashionable survival mechanism, as the humans saw it. They'd turned the carnivorous forests into farms, somehow convincing the flesh-eating plants that humans made better business partners than prey. The result was a bizarre but incredibly efficient agricultural system, where the plants protected the crops from pests in exchange for regular fertilizer deliveries. Their cities. They'd built them inside the skeletons of the massive creatures they'd hunted during their early years. The rib cages of ancient Terminus Rexes now served as natural archways for their streets, reinforced with some kind of organic metallic alloy they'd developed by accident when someone spilled their coffee, which they still somehow managed to grow, into a vat of local minerals. The humans had developed technology that made their pre-exile achievements look like stone tools. They'd created atmospheric processors that turned the acid rain into fresh water through a process they called molecular restructuring, though several engineers admitted they just copied how their own bodies had learned to process the toxic atmosphere. Their vehicles ignored gravity like it was just a polite suggestion. When asked about the technology, one human engineer shrugged and said, "Well, when you live in crush-you-to-paste gravity long enough, you figure out how to tell it to buzz off." They'd even domesticated the local wildlife. Those terrifying flying predators that had once tried to eat them. Now they were the planet's primary transportation system, complete with saddles equipped with force fields and in-flight beverage service. The Terminus Rexes had been selectively bred into what humans called guard dogs, though calling a 3-story, tall, armored killing machine a dog seemed like a rather severe understatement. But perhaps most disturbing to the Council observers was what they'd done with the planet's natural disasters. They'd turned the massive electrical storms into power sources, the volcanic eruptions into spa retreats, nothing like a lava-heated pool, they said, and the meteor showers into celestial sporting events, with people betting on which chunks of space rock would make it through their defense systems. The observation team's report to the Council was short and alarming. They're not surviving on Terminus 9, they're thriving. And they're bored. One particular detail sent shivers through the Council chambers. The humans had started referring to Terminus 9 by a new name, Vacation Home. When asked about this, a local governor, elected through a process that involved both traditional voting and what they called American Ninja Warrior challenges, explained, "Oh yeah, Terminus 9's great for the kids, really toughens them up. But you know what would be cool? More planets. Got any other Deathworlds you're not using? We've got some thrill-seekers complaining that this one's getting too easy." The Council immediately classified the report under existential threats to galactic peace and things we really should have seen coming. But by then, it was far too late. Humanity wasn't just surviving on their prison world. They were preparing to expand. And they were smiling about it. First contact with post-exile humanity came from, of all people, a Xylaxian waste disposal merchant who got lost trying to find a shortcut through the restricted zone. Captain Blurks of the garbage scow, Lucky Break, would later describe the encounter as the most terrifying moment of my 300-cycle career, and I once hauled radioactive waste for a Thoraxian wedding. The thing was, nobody had told Captain Blurks that humans had turned their exile into an empire. So when his ship's sensors picked up what appeared to be a massive space station constructed from salvaged predator bones and advanced alloys hanging in high orbit around Terminus 9, he assumed he'd discovered some kind of ancient alien ruins. That assumption lasted exactly 12 seconds before his ship was surrounded by vessels that made his look like a rubber duck in a swimming pool full of sharks. "Welcome to Terminus Prime Space Control," came the cheerful transmission. "You've entered restricted airspace. Please state your business or prepare to be escorted by our Recreational Security Division. They're bored and looking for something fun to do." The escort vessels were piloted by what Blurks first thought was some new species of spacefaring predator. The humans inside their semi-organic ships had evolved into something that looked like they'd been designed by nature specifically to make other species nervous. Their enhanced musculature moved with liquid grace in the zero-G environment. Their eyes, now with tapetum lucidum like Earth cats, reflected the starlight in a rainbow of colors. Some had patterns of bioluminescence rippling across their skin in complex sequences, a new form of non-verbal communication they'd developed. But it was their smiles that really got to him. Nobody should look that happy when intercepting an intruder. I'm lost," Blurks managed to squeak through his translator. "Lost? Oh man, that's great." The human response was enthusiastic. "We haven't had visitors in ages. Want a tour? We've got this awesome zero-G gladiator arena we built out of an ancient space whale skeleton. The gift shop's already open." News of humanity's transformation spread through the galaxy faster than a quantum virus through an unprotected network. The various alien species reacted pretty much exactly how you'd expect when they learned that the crazy primitives they'd exiled had turned into spacefaring demigods who treated their Deathworld like a resort. The Volxians immediately proposed a trade agreement, right after they finished having their collective panic attack. The humans were now producing materials that could withstand conditions that would melt most starship hulls, and the Volxians wanted in on that action. The Rigelian hive mind attempted to analyze the human adaptation process and suffered the equivalent of a mental blue screen of death. They spent the next week trying to reboot their collective consciousness while muttering about impossible evolutionary speeds, and that's not how biology works. The Andromedans, still stinging from their poker losses years ago, immediately began fortifying their borders. This proved unnecessary as humans had mostly forgotten about their old grudges, though Big Tony did send them a message asking if they wanted a friendly rematch. Trade ships started appearing in Terminus 9's orbit, trying to establish commercial relations. The humans, showing that their sense of humor had evolved right along with their bodies, set up their main trading port inside the hollowed-out skull of what they claimed was the smallest Terminus Rex we could find. The sight of delicate diplomatic vessels flying into the maw of a preserved super predator became a popular attraction. The galactic media had a field day. Headlines screamed across the networks, "Humans turn Deathworld into luxury resort." Top 10. Terminus 9 survival mutations you won't believe. Local Terminus Rex wins Best Behaved Pet in interstellar competition. Human coffee now classified as controlled substance, too powerful for normal space-time. The Centaurian collective, who'd been so smug about the exile, sent Ambassador Zix 427 to establish diplomatic relations. The humans welcomed them by organizing a special event, acid rain surfing competition. The ambassador's tentacles never quite stopped twitching after watching humans ride the toxic downpours on magnetic boards, whooping with joy as their color-changing hair rippled in the caustic winds. But the real shock came when humans started offering extreme tourism packages to other species. They'd developed environmental suits that could protect visitors from Terminus 9's conditions, and thrill-seekers from across the galaxy started booking trips to experience what humans casually called a typical Tuesday. The package deals included Terminus Rex Safari, now with optional riding lessons, volcanic bungee jumping, anti-gravity canyon gliding, acid rain spa treatments, carnivorous forest canopy tours, survive like a human boot camp, medical waiver required. The Galactic Council held an emergency session to discuss the human situation. The debate lasted 6 standard days and ended with no conclusion except a general agreement to never ever make humans angry. One council member summarized the situation perfectly. "We exiled them to a death world. They turned it into a resort. They transformed themselves into a species that treats our nightmares like a day at the park. And now they're offering package tours. I suggest we just smile, nod, and pray they keep considering us entertaining." The humans, meanwhile, seemed genuinely puzzled by all the fuss. As one of their representatives put it during a press conference, "Look, you guys gave us this awesome planet, we fixed it up a bit, and now we want to share the fun. Also, anyone interested in buying our new line of gravity-resistant fitness equipment? We're running a special this week. The galaxy would never be the same." But then again, maybe that was exactly what it needed. A species crazy enough to surf on acid rain and turn it into a tourist attraction. The first hint that humanity had become more than just a bunch of crazy thrill-seekers came during what was supposed to be a routine trade dispute with the Mercantile Confederation of Proxima. The Confederation had decided to flex its muscles by positioning a battle fleet near Terminus 9's trade routes, thinking they could pressure the humans into better terms. The humans responded by sending one ship. One. The Confederation admiral laughed so hard he knocked over his ceremonial brain tank. Then the human vessel demonstrated its basic defensive capabilities by casually phasing through all their ships like they were holograms, leaving behind what humans called complimentary gift baskets on each bridge. The gift baskets contained fruit grown in Terminus 9's carnivorous forests, and coffee. The entire Confederation fleet had to be evacuated for decontamination after their crews got high on caffeinated Deathworld produce. "Next time," the human captain broadcasted cheerfully, "we'll show you what our ships can do when we're not being nice." The Confederation signed new trade terms the next day. They also began mandatory meditation sessions for their military personnel to cope with their newfound existential dread. Humanity's technological edge became impossible to ignore. Their ships, grown from hybridized Terminus 9 materials, could adapt to damage like living organisms. Their weapons weren't just advanced, they were unnecessary. When a pirate fleet tried to raid a human transport, the humans teleported all the pirates' clothes into deep space and offered to give them back in exchange for community service. The pirates now run a very successful recycling program. But it wasn't just military power that had everyone nervous. Humanity's economic influence spread through the galaxy like a particularly aggressive virus. They started selling products that seemed specifically designed to give regulatory boards nervous breakdowns. Personal gravity manipulators, great for home workout routines. Domesticated miniature Terminus Rexes, they only eat twice your body weight per day. Weather control devices, now you can have acid rain at your wedding. Terminus 9 survival training programs. If you die, your next course is free. The Galactic Stock Exchange had to be suspended 3 times in 1 week when humans introduced their new banking system, which they'd modelled after the hunting patterns of Terminus 9's swarm predators. Somehow, it was both terrifyingly aggressive and more stable than any economic model in galactic history. Their diplomatic approach was equally unsettling. Human ambassadors attended council meetings in environmental suits, designed to look like formal wear, casually mentioning how comfortable they found the light gravity of other worlds. They had a habit of solving complex diplomatic crises by inviting all parties to team-building exercises on Terminus 9. It's amazing how quickly species can resolve their differences when they're running from a pack of hunting Terminus Rexes together. The tension reached its peak when the Galactic Defense Force conducted its annual military exercises. The humans asked to participate. The Council, trying to be diplomatic, agreed. The exercise scenario was simple. Defend a space station against a mock invasion. The humans showed up with what looked like a luxury cruise ship. The Defense Force brought their most advanced battle fleet. The humans won. Their ship's AI had reprogrammed the entire Defense Force's combat computers to play something called disco music, while their crews inexplicably found themselves participating in mandatory dance contests. "We thought it would be more fun this way," the humans explained to the furious Defense Force commander. "Besides, we've got some great footage for our tourist promotional videos." The Council held yet another emergency session. The debate centered around one crucial question. How do you handle a species that treats military exercises like entertainment programming? The humans, meanwhile, continued expanding their influence. They started renovating other death worlds, calling it their Extreme Worlds Development Project. They established trading posts in the most dangerous parts of space, claiming the deadly conditions reminded them of home. Their tourism industry became the galaxy's largest economic sector. Their technological innovations revolutionized everything from space travel to breakfast cereal. Their military power was unquestionable, yet they seemed more interested in turning potential conflicts into reality shows. As one exasperated council member put it, "We didn't create a civilization of survivors. We created a civilization of humans who think the galaxy is their playground, and they're better at running it than we are." The humans just grinned and announced they were opening a chain of extreme sports centers called Deathworld Light, for those who like their danger with training wheels. The galaxy didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or enroll in humanity's increasingly popular survival courses. Most opted for all 3, just to be safe. 53 years after the exile, humanity decided it was time for a proper reunion tour. The Galactic Council chambers, still looking exactly like the bureaucratic fever dream it had always been, fell silent as the new human ambassador stepped onto the speaking platform. Ambassador Rex Thaddeus Thunderstorm III, humans had developed a flair for dramatic names during their exile, was a perfect specimen of evolved humanity. Standing 2 meters tall despite the crushing gravity of his homeworld, his skin occasionally flickering with bioluminescent patterns and his hair shifting colors with his emotions, he cut an imposing figure. The fact that he was casually juggling 3 chunks of Terminus 9 minerals that could melt through standard starship hulls didn't help calm anyone's nerves. "Distinguished members of the Council," he began, his voice carrying the kind of cheerful menace that made several species consider early retirement. "We'd like to thank you for your wonderful gift 53 years ago. Terminus 9 has been absolutely delightful. Really, we couldn't have asked for a better homeworld." Ambassador Zix 427, who had pushed for the exile in the first place, rippled their tentacles nervously. Their bioluminescent spots had gone rather pale. "In fact," Thunderstorm continued, still juggling the deadly minerals, "we've been having such a great time that we thought we should share the experience, so we've prepared a proposal for the Council." The proposal appeared on the chamber's holoscreens. Several Council members needed immediate medical attention. "As you can see, we're offering to help upgrade the galaxy's infrastructure using our new technologies. We're also proposing an interstellar exchange program. Your people come live on Terminus 9. Our people help make your worlds more interesting." "Interesting?" squeaked a council member. "Like what you did to Terminus 9? "Oh no, nothing that extreme. We understand not everyone shares our enthusiasm for acid rain surfing and Rex riding. We're just talking about small improvements. Better defenses, stronger economies, more efficient technologies, maybe a few gravity parks for the kids." The council leader, whose geometric shapes were spinning in obvious distress, managed to ask, "And if we decline?" Thunderstorm caught all 3 mineral chunks in one hand and smiled, the kind of smile that made apex predators consider becoming vegetarians. "Decline? Oh, this isn't a request requiring approval. It's a courtesy notification. See, we've already started. Check your local real estate listings under Extreme Makeover Planet Edition." The council chambers erupted in chaos. Screens lit up with reports from across the galaxy of human improvement teams already at work. The power dynamics of the galaxy weren't shifting. They had already shifted. "Don't worry," Thunderstorm said, his hair cycling through amused shades of blue and purple. "We'll make it fun. Now, who wants to sign up for our introductory package? First acid rain surf lesson is free." The council had no choice but to watch as their carefully ordered galaxy got a human-style renovation. At least the property values were going up. 10 years after humanity's grand return to galactic politics, the universe had become a very different place. The Galactic Council still existed, technically speaking, though now it met in a massive space station shaped like a Terminus Rex skull, because humans had decided governmental buildings needed more character. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on anyone. The species that had been exiled for being too chaotic, too unpredictable, and too fond of putting hot sauce on sacred artifacts now essentially ran the galaxy. Though, to be fair, they ran it surprisingly well, just with more explosions and extreme sports than anyone had expected. The final diplomatic arrangements were simple. Every species would continue governing themselves, but humanity would serve as galactic adventure consultants, their term, or chaos managers, everyone else's term. They had a knack for solving problems in ways that were simultaneously terrifying and effective. Border dispute. Schedule a zero-gravity paintball tournament between the conflicting parties. Economic crisis? Introduce a new extreme tourism destination. Political deadlock? 3 words. Terminus Rex Racing. But perhaps the most delicious irony came when Ambassador Zix 427, the very same diplomat who had proposed the exile, submitted a formal request to establish a Centaurian colony on Terminus 9. Apparently their species had developed a taste for adventure after all those mandatory team-building exercises. "Welcome to the club," Ambassador Thunderstorm told them during the signing ceremony. "We've reserved you a lovely spot next to the acid geysers. Don't worry, it's way safer than the motorcycle jousting arena we built for the Volxians. And so the galaxy learned an important lesson. Never exile a species to a death world unless you want them coming back as adrenaline-junkie space demigods with a really weird sense of humor and an unnerving talent for making the impossible look easy. Though the gift shop revenue alone made it almost worth it. Almost.